All right, well, thank you all for joining me today to talk about sponsorship and how you came to do it. As we get started, I will introduce myself and we'll go from there, introduce ourselves and get started on the conversation. I am Erin Howe. I am the React Sponsors Program Director for React DC. And since the beginning of the year, I have guided sponsors throughout the country with the resources and just walking beside them through the whole process of welcome. And I am led by our founder and CEO, Amy Martin.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I am founder and CEO. Happy to be here talking about sponsorship today with all of you. So thank you for making the time.
So we'll go first as far as introductions. Does that sound good?
Sure.
I'm Kim.
Steve.
And we, Schaefer, and we live in Socorro, New Mexico. And we have a newcomer family of 8. We've had them since February 12th. So we've actually had them a little more than 7 months right now.
I'm Domi Long, and I'm in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we welcomed an Afghan family of 4 in right about the same time as Kim and Steve, February 15th.
I'm Brooke Cutler. I live in Waukesha, Wisconsin, and we welcomed a family of 6 Ukrainians. It's grandparents, parents, and 2 children, and they arrived on July 26th this year.
Oh, wow.
So we have sponsors far and wide and everywhere in between. So that's great. Would any of you like to share a little bit about how you came into sponsorship and how you formed your sponsor circle and decided to go this route?
Any particular order, doesn't matter. I can go first, I guess. I just happened to find out about the sponsor circle program last November. Just saw like a statement issued by the State Department and was really interested in it. And so I talked to my husband, then we just texted a bunch of our friends and there are about 8 families that ended up doing it together. And so we just started working on it from, that time forward.
I'll go next. So I had a little bit of a connection with the Afghan community from teaching English with a nonprofit in this area. And so when the evacuation started, I got involved a little bit with the Red Cross, but also really wanted to, I knew about sponsorship and really wanted to get involved. But I always thought I couldn't do it because I wasn't part of a church or a religious organization that seemed to be the people who were sponsoring refugees. So I ended up, a friend of mine sent me an article in Vox about the private sponsorship, the Sponsor Circle program. And, I read the article and I was immediately like, yes, this is it. This is my entrance into being able to do this work. And so I sent out a text to 9 friends, because my husband was on board right from the beginning, and thought, okay, I'll go out from there. These are the first 9 people I think of. And then they all said yes. So we got started right away. Yeah. So.
And then I was out walking my daughter's dog out in the desert, and I bumped into some friends who were walking their dogs, and they said, we were just thinking about you. Dave saw something in the paper called Sponsor Circles. They gave me a little blurb about it. I said, I'm in. The next 5 or 4 families we talked to, they were all about it. So we built a team of 6 very quickly. It was just obviously needed. We totally agreed with the concept.
Yes.
So nobody had to be talked into it. They were all on board immediately, and it wasn't hard to round up at least 5 people.
It was not. They really understood what it meant. They did. Yeah, everybody in our group.
Yeah.
I've got to say that I had a couple of friends say no, and we formed our group of 8. But when I started doing the sponsor circle training, all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, I did not realize how deeply involved and how much work we had to do. And I almost bailed, but I'm really glad I didn't. So it is a lot. Yeah.
Yes, well, and the training is pretty extensive to have it hit you all at once. But then if you break it up into pieces, you realize it's not, everything doesn't happen at once. But
what was I'm very curious to know what was the most intimidating part of was it the aggregate of all the things that needed to be done, or was there one part that was most, concerning for you?
Yeah, I have 6 children, and my youngest at the time was 18 months. She's now 2. And I mean, they're busy, active children. So when I realized, I think the extent of time that would probably be involved, that was worrying to me. And then also, I think for me, the fundraising really scared me when they told us how much we were going to have to raise in order to sponsor a family. That kind of scared me.
Yeah. And so how did you work through it? Because you're here, so you did.
Work through it. Well, ironically, around that time, CBS 58 did an interview with our church, which was separate from sponsor circles, but our leader asked if I would come in and just talk about, community service my family does. And so I was like, sure, I can do that, because we go and do tutoring in Milwaukee with refugee children. We do like all these different things. And so we went in, and one thing that he mentioned to her was sponsor circles. And so I thought she would just talk to me about like the other things we do, but the whole time that all the interview was about sponsor circles, and it aired on television like right after that. And so I was like, well, I just told all of Wisconsin I'm going to do this, so I better go ahead and do it. Yeah. But I'm really glad. I'm really glad I did it. It's honestly been one of the most beautiful experiences our family's ever had. So I'm really, really glad we did it.
Great. Did any of the other of you have any challenges with the fundraising aspect of it?
Well,
go ahead. I don't think fundraising was the biggest for us. Maybe we did okay, because what we did too was we had friends, and we put some of our own in, and then we just sent letters out. And I think the call was, wow, that's a really good way to know that our money is going directly to a family. So we did. It was pretty quick, but I understand that there's a lot of money. Definitely was intimidating, but we got it faster than we thought. But I think a lot of the members themselves committed to that much money because they had it. They're, were able to have that money already.
Yeah, and I think for us, when I thought about which 9 people I was going to send that email to, I also thought about, okay, my friend Joan does a lot of fundraising stuff. So, because I'm not as comfortable with that. So I'm going to ask her. I had a friend who worked in the county government with community services, health and human services. So I was like, she'd be a great person to have on team. So I was a little bit, they're all close friends, but I was a little bit strategic in my first query about people who I thought might be able to focus on specific areas, like an educator and a mental health provider. And, we're all friends, and we have kids our kids are all grown. So we're in that kind of Goldilocks zone of, kids grown, but not many of us have grandchildren yet. So, so people had kind of the time and energy. I was anxious about the fundraising, but my husband and I talked about at the very beginning, like, okay, we have this chunk of money we're willing to put up front because we need to raise this money within a certain time frame. And then we'll see how it goes. And, we can commit up to this amount, whatever happens. So that helped.
And do you think it was helpful? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, for when we were talking about overwhelming, do you want to stay on fundraising?
No, I just had one question. Do you think it was helpful that you got to pick how many people that you thought you could handle, which kind of, the fundraising is tied per person. So,
yeah.
Was that helpful at all?
We asked for more when we realized we had more. We said, well, we could actually take a few more. So I think we contacted you and said we could actually go higher. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Kim, go ahead. And
Steve can chime in anytime, but I talk a lot. Okay. So for me, the most overwhelming at the time was realizing we have a real life family coming to a small town, because we live in a small town. And would we be able to meet the needs and help them be successful? It was really important for me to think, yeah, you can invite them in, but if you just, send them on their way, is that going to be helpful? So to recognize it was probably going to be a longer term commitment than what we originally thought, as we realized, oh, there's this piece, there's all of those pieces in the application. That's a whole lot of energy and time, and it was important that they get set up right if they're going to be successful. So that was to me that, like, oh, I laid awake at night going, wow, we are getting a real life family. This isn't just on paper. So that was big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, none of us were familiar with social services that much.
Yeah.
And that became a challenge. First to learn about it and then to navigate through it. It's not set up real user friendly in a lot of ways. So anyway, we did that as well. And for me, my biggest challenge was Kim asked me to sort of look at the asylum part of it.
Oh, wow.
And so I was kind of doing it. I mean, kind of, right? Unaware that, oh my gosh, I mean, if we don't get asylum, I mean, there is a possibility they could be sent back. And that just floored me. And so I went all over Albuquerque. I ran into I was looking for a lawyer at that time. I had thought maybe I can do it myself. And then what are they called? The
Law firm, the nonprofit? No.
Yeah, the nonprofits.
Yeah, New Mexico immigration law. That one?
No, the Lutheran.
Oh yeah, or the local resettlement agency that we have locally. We were trying to tap into them to see what they were using.
But because we're outside, we're in Socorro. They didn't help us, and so that meant we were on our own. And I didn't know anything about immigration. So I did a quick study of sorts. And it looked like Abdul was able to get special immigration visa. And so I studied that, and it was hard to understand the State Department's descriptions, and so that was very scary as well. This was Anyway, then we decided to well, let's not take any chances because this is a big deal. So we actually hired a lawyer. Decided to hire a lawyer, and that was very expensive, and we did a second fundraiser for that, and surprised us. We got the money and some. Just a lot of giving people around here, and so they were working on starting to work on that, and we were going to go the 360 route, and right after that, Abdul came to me and showed me an email that he got saying that from the State Department, State Department, saying that you need a few more, fill out a few more things in your application for SIV.
And long story short.
Yeah, I do.
Long story short, we heard back from the lawyer.
Thank you.
Who's giving us our money back. Everything's like, wow. So, they've redone the rules and all of that. And so now we're actually waiting for the last submission we made of his SIV.
Yeah, which is
it's just
troublesome.
It's been such hard work. Yeah, it's a little troublesome. It is, yeah. So that is, we're waiting.
Yeah.
But we think
and that's
we now have more money for the family because we sent another email out saying we didn't need your money after all. So there's more in their account. Basically, we have our sponsors circle is still set up. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's something that's different for the Afghan sponsors or people who have sponsored Afghan families versus the Ukrainian families, which I wouldn't, you guys are doing different things, but the Ukrainian families are not even at the asylum point necessarily yet. And I don't know if Brooke, you've talked to your family about this, but a lot of them are planning to go back. They want to go back. This is temporary for them. Whereas Afghans obviously can't and don't want to go back.
You're on mute, Brooke.
Sorry, I have a 2-year-old in the background. I apologize. Our family is actually from Mariupol, Ukraine. Their house was bombed just after they left. So they are hoping to stay. But yeah, I think that is true in general.
I'm curious, you touched on the community there rallying around extra needs. What were some of the most surprising or unexpected ways that your community has rallied around you and come through? That's open to any of you.
We've actually been overwhelmed by the community response. I was so worried about fundraising, and we raised, I mean, like $25,000 fairly quickly. It was amazing. But not only that, I mean, when we like posted about on social media, or just, you know, when friends and family found out what we were doing, we have just been overwhelmed by, I mean, furniture donations, and people just said, no, we'll just buy cleaning supplies, no big deal, I'll just drop it off. They bought TVs, they bought towels, they have wanted to like be involved and help give rides. That we've just been overwhelmed by how kind our community is.
And how would you say your community has benefited by having your newcomers there?
Well, we think that we got like the best family in the whole world. They're like some of like the kindest, sweetest people I've ever met. That when I like hear stories of what they've been through the last 6 months, it's overwhelming to me. Just the heartbreak that they have been through and leaving everything behind. I mean, people they knew, you know, close friends and family that were killed, and they arrived with 2 suitcases, the only things they had left. And yet they are like the most positive, kind, wonderful people. Every time I introduce them to anyone, everybody says, I'd like to get together with them again and get to know them. You know, like they just think they're wonderful. And they already have been giving back. Like they live in a house that our friends own, and they have the bottom floor apartment. The friends are renovating the house. They've been up helping paint and pull out flooring. And, you know, they just have been great about giving back about everything. Yeah.
That's great.
It sounds like all of you have really connected with these families. They're not just someone that you're sponsoring and then your sponsorship is done and you're moving on, and even moving beyond support. I mean, even when the support is done, I guess, would you agree that you plan to stay in touch in some way long term, and you want to, not because you feel like you have to, but if you want to?
I do, because I want to see those kids get their education and go out and get their jobs. You know, there's going to be 6 of them in our family, and the 4 oldest are really go-getters, and I think we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think one thing that's a little different for us maybe from your situations is that we're in an area with a pretty big Afghan diaspora. So they actually have more of an Afghan community here. So I know in some ways, like some things they just want to do with Afghans. And you know, I think we will, you know, they consider us family, and we will certainly, you know, be involved with the family and watch their kids grow up. And, you know, so I think we'll definitely stay connected with them. I can't imagine any of us or them feeling like, I mean, it was such a formative experience for everybody that, you know, we were their family when they got here, and, you know, they've trusted us so much, and you know, been so open, and you know, it's a very vulnerable position for these families. So I feel like that's been so moving to me, and I think the others in the sponsor circle, like the trust that these families put in us. It's hard to describe what that feels like. So yeah.
I would say for sure. They already feel kind of like best friends. I think one of my favorite memories from the sponsor circles is the day after they arrived, I just brought the whole family to our house, and we were like trying to, you know, sign up for food share benefits and Badger Care and fill out work authorization and whatnot. And they have a son who is my daughter's age, and then they have another daughter who is my younger daughter's age. And they were running around the house like crazy, and he was yelling in Russian and she was yelling in English, and they were having like the most amazing time together, right? And so already my 2-year-old every day asks for Milana. She wants to see Milana every day, and we just, they feel already a lot like family. Actually just last week, the mother of the family texted me and she said, "It's terrible that there is a war in our country and my children felt what it was, but it also led to meeting you. Imagine we could never meet. There's so many miles between us. As they say in our country, there wasn't would be happy, but misfortune helped." And they truly feel like best friends and family to us. And we're just, I know no matter what happens with their parole or whatever, I'm just grateful to have them in my life, because they have been such a blessing to our family.
That's beautiful.
Our family is very, very grateful. And I will say, we haven't talked much about, we have a very big language barrier. So I don't know if that's the case for your family with the, that's been the biggest shock, is how much that has stopped us from progressing on certain things. But it's happening. I know I was a teacher, give them a good year and they'll start speaking a little more, but they really knew not hardly anything at all. But what we do know is they're amazingly grateful. There's just always at the very end of our visits is how they appreciate us.
Yeah, and in our family, the husband speaks really good English and the wife doesn't speak much English at all. And that's been tricky because, you know, so he does everything and he mediates every interaction with her. And that's been tricky because I think she's really struggling right now with being away from her family. She desperately misses her family. And, you know, he has a full-time job from home, but he has a full-time job. He's a professional. He speaks English. You know, the transition's a lot smoother for him than it is for her. And so that's been a little bit tricky. Like, I do feel like even though I was teaching English and there are organizations teaching English, the language piece isn't still not great. Like, I feel like, you know, the pandemic the organization I taught with was doing classes in person at a library, and moms could bring their under school age kids, and there was someone to work with the kids and play with them, you know, just watch them while the moms had English in the adjoining classroom. And that model was fantastic. And they switched to online because of the pandemic. And they got so many more students all over the country that they're not going back. And it's such a gap now for like the mom that we work with. She, you know, her kids are little, they're 2 and 3, and, you know, she can't be online for her class. It's just not going to work while her husband's working full time. So, you know, if they still had that program, that organization, I would take her, and, you know, she could have her English class there and have her kids meeting other kids. And, you know, so yeah, I feel like some things changed from the pandemic that have made the language piece a little bit harder. And there's so much demand, you know, for English classes right now.
Domi, you and I need to connect since you're in our area, and we just kicked off our React Women program. In fact, we had our first program meeting this morning. We need to talk about that, because we can definitely get her better connected. We can't, some things are virtual and would be available to all of our sponsors, but since you're right here, we'll just pull her right in.
Great.
So would you all knowing what you know now, looking back, do you think that your desire to sponsor you would have fulfilled without having an umbrella organization backing you up and walking through the process?
You guys helping us?
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it. I know that. Erin helped me on some really important stuff, especially the very beginning, and just knowing that there would be someone, and the names, like you gave me a couple names or ideas that I wouldn't have found out outside of you. So
yeah, just for me, from the beginning with the welcome plan and knowing we had to like start gathering all that information and all the areas that we would be helping the family with, I can't imagine, you know, it would be like, we'd be like, oh, right, they need this, you know, oh, right, they can apply for SNAP. Oh, right, they could, you know, there's this program. And that just, there's no way without that framework that we would have been able to help them as much as we've helped them. And just knowing, like, with the back and forth on the Social Security, you know, the SIV and all that stuff with you, Aaron, it's like we knew we had someone in our corner all the time, you know, and that we could, if something came up that we felt like we couldn't handle, we could get in touch with you and say, like, can you help us with this? So yeah.
I echo that for sure. Not you really need somebody supporting you and helping you through the process. Yeah.
And it has been a great experience on this end. It's amazing how much I learn from each of my sponsor circles, because each sponsor and each sponsored family has its own unique set of circumstances and needs. And I can't possibly know everything, but through the resources we have and the experience that we have, combined with experience from each of the sponsors throughout the country, and each state is slightly different. It's amazing what you can pull together with the resources and figure out the answers to questions you maybe haven't heard before because of unique circumstances. So we've learned a lot from you all too.
Especially in the evolving situation. I'm thinking about how much has changed, you know, first with the Afghan crisis and then with the Ukrainians coming over as well. And they're two completely different situations. And just, I feel like when we had it figured out, then we shifted gears and had to figure it out all over again. But I think it's very cool that everybody works as a team, and the sponsors do seem to help each other out as well, which we'd love to do more of, connecting sponsors to each other to give them a better support network. I think we've got plans for that in the future.
Yeah. And then a big burning question I have is, looking back on it now, would you do it again?
You should clarify. Do you mean do it again a second time, or would you have done
would
it
you have time? Right? No, I mean, a second
not
time
everybody
would
was
be great. But if you had it to do over again, would you have made the same decision?
I would. I don't know about Steve, but it definitely has been time consuming. I mean, we are putting hours still in every week, hours and hours, but I have the time, and so do the other two people that are helping still. And we love them. So yes.
Mm-hmm. I would have said, you know, like a year ago, I don't have the time. And yet it has honestly been one of the best experiences of my entire life. And I've already talked to my husband about how I'd love to just do this over and over and over again. We love it so much. Like, we love doing it as a family. We love having our children involved and getting to know them. We just love it all. So yeah, I'm really hoping that we can keep doing it.
That's so cool that you're doing that with young children, you know, that your kids are getting that modeled and that experience that they'll, you know, it's going to affect them in ways as adults that you can't even foresee now, you know. That's amazing. It's great.
I mean, I've always looked for community service things that we could do together as a family.
Yeah.
So many things that only adults can do. And I really think that this is by far the very best thing we've ever done. And we've really loved it. And we were really grateful that we were able to get matched with a family that had children too. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I had just retired a couple years ago, and I kept going, I know I don't contribute to anything anymore. I'm not a contributor. And so when this came up, I jumped, and now I'm like, okay, I'm good. You know, this is contributing and it's really important contributions. So it's been really rewarding for me. And then again, they're super appreciative.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely do it again. I mean, I don't know if I'll do it again, but I would definitely have done it, knowing what I know now. And I think one of the things that is I mentioned this kind of at the beginning of the call. One of the things that's tricky, I think, is the time frame, because I think people are willing to make a 3-month commitment, you know, and to say, yes, I'm gonna be fully on board and helping with this for 3 months. And it's not really a 3-month thing, you know. I mean, it could be. And like when we got to our 3 months and we did our 90-day, you know, report or whatever, I sent out something to the group saying, hey, just so you know, our commitment is officially over. So if you need to step back because you have other things in your life you need to take care of, no worries about that. And everybody's fulfilled, what you committed to do. And it's been amazing. But, and I didn't hear from anybody who was like, yeah, take me off those emails. It's like everybody has still been involved to the extent that they can be. But, we're still, the family still needs support. We're not financially supporting them anymore. Zabi has a good job, and we were able to raise enough and support them enough that they're independent now at this point. But driving and just all kinds of things that come up, health insurance with his job, like how do you navigate that? And so so I'm kind of curious from you, Amy, and Aaron, like what do you see with all the groups that you've been working with, or how do you envision sort of this timeline going out from the 3 months and then from there?
Most often it is going past the 3 months, because in reality, it takes people longer than 3 months to get fully situated. And that is something the program has adjusted. Like right now, the focus is Ukrainians coming in through Uniting for Ukraine. And that expectation has been adjusted for that population because whereas, Afghans, newcomers were coming in with already having applied for their employment documents and everything, Ukrainians are not. They are going straight to their sponsor. So it is going to take them longer to get their documents in hand, longer to start working, and it has been expanded from there. So, but yeah, the program was modeled after the 90-day resettlement model, and so that is where the 3 months came from. Okay. But yes, it is definitely more commitment than 3 months in most cases.
Yeah.
And I think, Aaron, I would say that most of the sponsor groups are extending, maybe not, the goal is to not be extending financial support after your support period, but are extending moral support and just troubleshooting support. I think on like you said, Domi, like driving or the other things that pop up later, I have this form to fill out for my work. What do I do with it? Right. I think that's pretty accurate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they seem to be okay.
Our guy's a dishwasher, and they're on Medicaid and they're on services, and they will be for a while. They've got 6 kids, and I think for us, it's how much do we draw back so they become more independent. We can't let the services drop yet. They're not going to have enough. And how much are we enabling them maybe to not learn English? Because we're doing, Steve spent 2 hours working on school forms because we realized, you know what, Dad could do this. He could fill it out. Now Mom could never do that, not for a long time. So we want to make sure we're helping them become independent, but also not like, well, see you later.
Right.
That they're not going to be ready for that for quite a while.
I think that's so important and honestly insightful, and that you think about that it's not to do everything for them, it's to help them at first so they can do for themselves. And you're right, that timeline is going to look different depending on what the family situation is and what the English capabilities in particular are. But I'm glad you have those moments. You're like, wait, they could do this themselves. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. And you want them to be able to do it themselves. That is the goal.
We were able to get him a car, a Suburban that holds 9. That's been a huge help.
Wow.
Dad does drive, and that, just that piece where we're not taking them to every grocery shopping, we were doing everything. So yeah, that's been helpful. But again, just to how much to draw back. And I think we just fill it out, and then we say, oops, that was too quick. We got to come back. And
I will say, I think that we're like a very enviable position because our Ukrainians speak pretty good English. Not all of them, but the father and mother do, and the grandfather speak really good English. I think Ukrainians they learn English in school for a lot of their lives. So, some things they Google Translate, but the father in particular can speak like almost perfectly. But I would be so sad if my experience did have to end after 3 months. We love spending time with them. So it is like a huge blessing, just to be involved in somebody else's life like that. And to be so intimately connected with them and to, you know, be friends in that way. It's a really unique relationship. So.
All right. Well, does anybody have anything else that they know they want to share with us at large?
Or any advice that you would have for anyone who's thinking about sponsoring, is maybe on the fence?
I would definitely say do it. I don't think you could ever do anything that's more worthwhile. It's really wonderful. And I want to thank React DC. I mean, Erin in particular has just been amazing. She is such a huge support. I can't tell you how many questions I send her, and she's always positive and kind and always finds answers. It's amazing to me. And I ask her really strange things. Like, it's amazing the questions that come up. But I'm just so grateful to have, you know, an umbrella organization that has made such a difference to our sponsorship and has made it so that it was, you know, easy. And I felt like I always had the support that I needed. So I've never felt alone when I've been like looking for questions, which has been great.
Yeah, and I think would tell people that I love this model. I love this sponsorship hub kind of model of having sponsor circles and then connected with an umbrella organization. You know, like I think I've mentioned this in other settings, but the refugee resettlement agencies are so overwhelmed and so not able to service the folks who are coming in a way that it was really hard to see that and to know that you could have, you know, control over, you know, how a family would experience their resettlement in a way that I don't know, I'm not being very articulate about this, but just with the resettlement agencies that they were, you know, I talked to somebody in a Afghan grocery store who'd be like, yeah, we're with X resettlement agency and, you know, haven't heard from the caseworker in a while. My little daughter has an appointment tomorrow. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to get them there. And just like I felt so stress for them. And I, you know, I think that the sponsor circle model works so well, you know, being able to do that, a small group of people giving one family a lot of attention and assistance, like it works so well. And having you guys as the, you know, the administrative and, you know, like our backstop to know, you know, we have your support. So
yeah, I think the resettlement agents, particularly in our area, in the you know, and just in the DMV area, because we were so hard hit and their funding had been cut so much in the previous years. But I do think the cool thing about this is there are whole states that don't have a resettlement agency in the entire state. So this allows communities to experience refugees, to gain diversity and have all the beautiful things that refugees bring to communities in areas that otherwise wouldn't have them. So I think it gives people an opportunity to connect, you know, in a way that they wouldn't. I think resettlement agencies do some amazing things and have some amazing expertise. And around here have been particularly stressed in the past year. But this is in my personal opinion, in React DC's opinion, this is a beautiful complement to that system and a way to increase our capacity for, I think our country has a much bigger capacity to welcome newcomers than we're currently using. And I think our goal with this is to spread that and help more people come and resettle.
I actually would echo those thoughts as well. I mean, we've had interaction with the resettlement agency in Milwaukee because our family has a matching grant through them, and they've described their process of helping refugees. And I mean, anybody can, I mean, they can sign them up for state benefits just as well as we can. But I just think about how they just talk about all these different families they have to service and how a caseworker is overtaxed with so many families. And yet this family comes to us and we are immediately their family. I mean, we just care about them. And not only that, but we have all of these connections in our community. Like as we're looking for jobs for our father, all we have to do is all of, you know, the different people in our circle just reach out to all their connections and say, hey, and I have like a friend who's contacting all these different companies, you know, he's in contact with, and we have another friend in HR at this company, and we have a friend who works for this company, you know, And then also like, all we have to do is say, hey, we're welcoming this family, and people are like, oh my gosh, let me give you all this stuff that I'm getting rid of for my house, or, whereas they're struggling just to buy plastic shelves for their, for these refugee families in Milwaukee. And just how, and that is more than just, signing them up for benefits or helping them register for school. It's also giving them community, like helping them feel like they've really integrated into American society because they have friends and family here who care about them and who are with them. It makes a big difference. I'm really grateful for the Sponsor Circle program.
Did you find that your network was bigger than you thought it was? That's why I'm watching sponsors leverage their existing network, and I don't know, people come out of the woodwork a little bit that you didn't know.
Much bigger. I had no idea that I had so many connections. Yeah. But I think that's probably true. Like we don't usually look at people for their connections, but we're just like amazed by the amount of connections that we all have. Yeah.
Well, it is in all thanks to groups like yours that this has been such a success over the past few months. I guess we're coming up on almost a year now since we started this. And it is going to continue, and we are continuing with right now, like I say, Uniting for Ukraine, and hoping to welcome a lot of new people into sponsor circles and communities all over the country. So, and you all have paved the way and showed that it can be very successful. So it is, it's amazing what you have done, and we are very grateful for it. You have made a huge impact on several levels for not just your own family, but for future families that can be assisted with this model. So your impact goes beyond what you even are aware of. And thank you for all of that.
Erin said it perfectly.
I have a question. Any thought to helping people who are coming up from the southern border?
So right now,
it's not a very complicated situation, so I don't ask that. Yeah.
No. And it's a good question, and you're not the first to ask, honestly. Right now, it's just outside the scope of our program and what we're allowed to do.
Okay.
I know it's a need, and I know that there are people a lot smarter than we are working on solutions to that. But for now, it's outside of our scope, unfortunately. And I think, all of us personally in this area in DC are just kind of trying to step in and help as we can.
Yeah.
Outside of any organizational. Yeah. We are hoping, certainly hoping Uniting for Ukraine is not the last of the program. Hoping it expands to other populations, other countries, and eventually so that anybody who is a refugee will be able to enter the country through this program. That's the ultimate program goal. And that would hopefully, include those people too.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. Well, I thank you all again for joining us for this discussion. And I know that everyone is busy, so I will let you get on with your day. But thank you very much. It has been truly an honor to do this alongside you and to be your umbrella organization. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.